Hello my dear students, I hope you people are fine. So let us continue with the typical configuration of computer system. In our previous video we have discussed about the registers and the cache memory. So just within 2 seconds we'll just have a glance on what exactly the registers and the cache memory we had discussed. So these registers are the high-speed temporary storage memory. They are being located within the CPU itself. So whenever the CPU requires for the data or the instructions from the cache memory or from the main memory, the data and the instructions that are being provided from the main memory or the cache will be first received by the registers, okay, for the processing purpose. Usually these registers work under the direction of the control unit, and these registers are capable of accepting the data, to store the data and to transfer the data or the instructions that are required by the ALU for the processing purpose. So therefore, the number of the registers, the size of the registers in the CPU would definitely affect the power and the speed of the CPU. The more the number of registers and more the capacity of the registers if we are having, so there will be a faster data transfer rate, okay, within the CPU, so to the ALU, wherein it will provide the data and instruction for the processing purpose. Obviously if more the faster rate, obviously your computer performance will be increased. So let us discuss what exactly the cache memory is. Cache memory is a high-speed memory that has been placed between the random access memory and the CPU. What kind of data has been stored in the cache memory? Okay, it stores the more oftenly you required data, and it is temporary, makes it available to the CPU at the faster rate. The recent instructions that are being required for the processing for the CPU, such kind of data and instructions will be stored in the cache memory. Then during processing, what happens? CPU will first look at for the data and instruction that are needed for the processing purpose in the cache memory. If the data is not available in the cache memory, then only the CPU will look for the data and instructions in the main memory. Okay, then so this cache memory is actually built into the CPU itself, hence it is a faster cache memory, and almost it has the speed of the microprocessor itself. We know that L1 is a cache memory that is already built in the microprocessor, so it is one of the fastest cache memory, and it will be having the speed of the microprocessor itself. However, these cache memory are faster comparatively to the random access memory. So these cache memory are very much expensive. It is much smaller in size. Usually they come in up to the size of 256 to 2 MB. Up to that much we are getting the cache memory. So we have the 3 different cache memory, that is L1, L2 and the L3 cache memory. So what is this L1? L1 is a kind of cache memory. It is the fastest memory and which is smaller in size, that has been placed within the CPU. So usually this L1 cache memory comes up to with the size of 256 kilobytes of memory. Okay, and next we have is the L2 cache memory. L2 cache memory, it is being located outside the CPU as a separate chip. Okay, wherein with the high speed system bus which is interconnecting the cache and the CPU. Okay, so this cache memory is making use of the high speed system bus in order to transfer the data between the cache memory and the CPU, and usually the size of the cache memory will be of 6 MB, isn't it? Then we had discussed about the L3 cache memory. L3 cache memory is a kind of a special kind of a memory that usually we see in the high-end processors, okay, like Intel Pentium i7, okay, i7 or i5 or i7, Intel i5 or i7 high-end processor, we are able to see this L3 cache memory, wherein the earlier processor didn't have this L3 cache memory. So the job of this L3 cache memory is to improve the performance of the L1 and L2 cache memory. Comparatively to the L1 and L2, the L3 cache memory is little bit slower, but it is double the fast as the our main memory or the random access memory. So usually the capacity of this L3 memory will be up to 12 MB. Okay, so no matter whether it is L1, L2 or L3, it usually stores the most recent instruction, executable instruction, and next instructions to be executed, and the most possible one instructions it will be contained, which are being required by the CPU for the processing purpose. So remember, the data transfer between the CPU and the cache memory will be quite fast when you compare the data transfer between the CPU and the main memory. Okay, so this is what about we have discussed in our previous class. So today let us continue with the next topic, that is the power supply. So here in the power supply is what usually we'll be having the 3 socket pin. Okay, at home or whatever, wherever you are working with the computer systems, in order to provide the power supply to your computer system, we have a 3 pin electrical socket. So the current that is flowing from that 3 pin socket will be of alternating current, that is AC. Okay, if at all if I'm using any kind of battery, UPS battery, online or offline, okay, inverter if we are using, so whatever the current passes from that 3 pin electrical socket, that alternating current will reach to the battery. Battery will internally convert that alternating current into the DC, that is direct current, and then the direct current will be provided to the computer system as the power supply. So this is basically the idea of power supply. And then whenever we provide the power supply, we need something known as power card plug, that is there into the motherboard. It is already been mounted on the motherboard. Whenever we plug in the main power supply from 3 pin socket, electrical socket, to the computer system, there is one notch, okay, as the power supply. This power supply is in turn making connection to the power card plug which is there onto the motherboard. Through that power card plug, the electricity is being passed on to the different electronic components onto the motherboard. Okay, so this was the basic idea of having the power supply. Now let us discuss. Okay, so usually the electrical power is the main source of the supply for the operation of electronic components of the computer system. Okay, then because of that, we need to continuously supply the power supply for the computer system in order to prevent them from the failures or the breakdown or the shutdown. So that your computer system need to be continuously working, we should make sure that there is a continuous power supply to the computer system. So all computers come with the power supply. So there are basically 2 types of power supply that is connected to the computer system. One, the form is SMPS, that is a switch mode power supply it might be, or it might be the UPS, that is uninterruptible power supply. Now let us see what exactly this switch mode power supply is. So this is what is your switch mode power supply. This switch mode power supply, it is a kind of converter that converts the alternating current power from an electrical outlet to the direct current power that is being needed by the system components. As I said, if at all if we are using any kind of power supply or any kind of battery if we are using for the computer system to connect, okay, in order to save the computer data, if in the case of power failure, okay, in that case what happens, this SMPS, okay, it is one of the type of power supply. It will convert that alternating current into the DC current and provide the system and provide the power supply to the system components for the working. So this SMPS, it's a kind of just a metal box, okay, which will appear at the back end of your computer system. Okay, it is in turn connected to the motherboard. Okay, then the power supply contains the power card plug. As I said, power card plug is already mounted onto the motherboard. So whatever the connection you are making, see, this is the power supply notch here. So this in turn it is connected to the power card plug onto the motherboard. Apart from that, this SMPS is also having the fan for the cooling process. Okay, usually when you on your computer system after working for 1 hour or 2 hours, just if you touch your back end of your computer system, you will feel the heat. So enormous amount of heat will be generated by the computer system because of its continuous working and because of continuous power supply to it. In order to maintain your microprocessor cool, there is a fan also inserted in the SMPS. Okay, then SMPS usually needs around 300 watts for the modern computer system. Okay, usually if at all if it is a PC, and SMPS would convert almost 230 volts of alternating current to direct current of 5 to 12 DC. That means it is capable, if at all if it is for the personal computer, and if you have the SMPS of around 230 volts, then it is that 230 alternating current volts will be converted into 5 to 12 DC. Okay, and usually these SMPS may have the weightage around 180 to 300 watts it may come, or 450 or 500 watts. Up to that much watts the SMPS power supply may come. Okay, so this was all about the SMPS. Now next we shall discuss about the UPS. Nowadays almost all are using the UPS power supply for the computer system to make it work even in the case of power failure. Suppose if you're when you're working on your computer system, suddenly if power supply goes, then whatever the work you have done, it might not save. So in order to prevent such kind of power failure, we usually need the power supply, that is in terms of SMPS or in terms of the UPS. Okay. Now let us discuss with the UPS. UPS is a kind of power supply that includes the battery to maintain the power in the event of power failure. So here this is a UPS. This is the standby UPS or the offline UPS, and this is the online UPS. So whenever there is a when your computer system is connected to the offline or online UPS, okay, and then you are working, suddenly if power supplies goes, the power supply which has been stored in the battery of this UPS, from that battery you will be able to get the power supply to the computer system, so that you can work up to for the few hours up to you can work, so that you can save the work whatever it is there in the RAM, and then you can shut down the computer system successfully. So for that sake we are using the power, that is UPS. Okay, then usually an UPS keeps a computer running for several minutes to few hours after the power failure, which will help the users to save the data in the RAM and then successfully shut down the computer system. So nowadays many modern computers are coming offers with a software component that usually automatically takes the backup, and then it will shut down the computer system in the event of the power failure, even when we are away from the computer system. Now we have the offline and online UPS. Nowadays modern computers are also coming with the software based power supply, which will automatically take up the backup. You will not even need to save your data. So let us discuss the types of UPS, that is the online UPS and the offline UPS. So first we will discuss about this online UPS. Usually this online UPS will avoid the momentary power lapses by continuously providing the power from its own inverter even when the power line is functioning properly. See, power supply is there, okay, and your computer has been connected with the online UPS. That means directly the current will not flow from the electrical socket to the computer system. That power supply will first come to the online UPS, and then online UPS will be forwarding the power supply from its inverter to the computer system, irrespective whether the power supply is there or power supply is not there. That is the job of the online UPS. Okay, then usually this online UPS is quite costlier than comparatively to this offline UPS or the standby UPS. Usually for a personal computer with a color monitor of 15 inches, it usually requires about 500 volts amp. Okay, 500 VA, in the sense 500 volts amp. That much capacity of online UPS we need. Or if we are having up to 17 inches PC if we are having, then UPS of 600 volt amps at least we require. Then let us discuss about this standby UPS, or it may also called as the offline UPS. Usually we can refer the offline UPS as the standby UPS. Here it actually monitors the power line and it will switch to the battery power as soon as it detects a problem. This means what? See, if your computer system is connected with the offline UPS, okay, when there is a power supply, okay, the power supply will be directly flowing flowing from the outlet, okay, electrical socket to the computer system. Meantime, this UPS will be continuously observing, it will be monitoring whether the power supply is there or no. Once it detects that there is no power supply, automatically it will switch to the offline UPS. Then whatever the battery is being stored with the electricity power, battery is being stored, then from the electricity from the battery of this offline UPS, it will start providing the power supply to the computer system. Whereas in case of online, what happened, irrespective whether the power supply is there or no, usually the power supply will be provided by its inverter, that is online inverters UPS. From there the power supply will be providing, but it will not happen in case of offline. Okay, directly the current power supply will be provided from the electrical socket to the computer system. By the time it will be monitoring, if at all if it get to know that power supply is off, okay, current there is a failure of the current, automatically it will switch to the offline UPS and then power supply will be start providing from the offline UPS to the computer system, so that the user have the time to save the data and he can work up to few minutes to few hours depending upon the capacity of the UPS. Okay, so the switch over to the battery, however, can require at least several milliseconds, during which the time computer is not receiving any kind of power. So when it is switching to the UPS, it takes certain milliseconds, okay, and then after that it will start providing the power supply to your computer system. So I'll explain this with a diagram here. So this is the online UPS and this is the offline UPS. See here, whenever at the time, let me explain about the offline UPS first. So this is your electrical socket, AC source, okay, and this IT load is the computer system. When there is a power supply, you can see this is green in color. Green in color, what it shows that normal power flow. When there is a power supply there, when that means when there is a current is there, okay, the current will be directly flowing from the electrical outlet to the computer system. It will never go to the battery. So current will be directly flowing from the current that is electrical socket to the computer system. At the other end, what happens, simultaneously your electricity is also passed to the battery, okay, that is your offline UPS, okay, offline UPS battery. To this you will be passing the current electricity. That time what happened, charging will battery charging will happen. So whatever that what kind of current we are using, we are receiving is alternating current, that is this one. This symbol shows that it is an alternating current. That alternating current will be converted into the direct current. These lines indicates it's a direct current. So it will convert it and it will be saving, that electrical power supply will be saving in the battery, okay. Then once the current supplies goes off or the power supplies goes off, automatically it will switch, the power supply will switch to the battery. So in the battery, what kind of current we are having? We are having in the direct current, isn't it? So that battery will convert again from direct current to the alternating current, and through the battery you will be able to get the power supply. See this red, what it is telling, stored energy power flow. So whenever initially the current will be there, directly electricity will be flowing from the AC source to your computer system. Once the offline UPS detects that there is no power supply, okay, what it does is, whatever the power supply is being stored into the battery, that will be in the form of what? Direct current. See, when the power supply is provided from the electrical socket, the alternating current will be converted to the direct current. Initially only I said, all the batteries, whenever you keep for the charging, they will convert that alternating current to the direct current, and that will be stored where? It will be stored in this battery. Can you see here? Battery. Okay. When it encounters there is no power supply, automatically it will start accessing the power supply from the battery, wherein the data again it will get converted from direct current to the alternating current, and then from the inverter it will start providing the electricity to the computer system. So this is how the offline computer systems work. Then what about the online computer system? Online UPS. So online UPS, what happens here? You can see the normal power flow. Now this is the charger. That means this is the rectifier or the charger that is converting the alternating current to the direct current. So here also we have the battery charger that converts the alternating current to the direct current. So whether the power supply is there or no, the power supply from the electrical socket, when it passes, it will get converted from alternating current to the direct current, and it will be stored in the battery. It will be stored in the battery of online UPS. Can you see? This is the battery. Then from the battery you will be able to get the power supply. Can you see this green color line? So this green color line indicates that is the flow of the power supply, whether we have the current or no. Okay, the power supply has to pass through the online UPS. Through the online UPS, you will be getting the power supply to your computer system. Now, what happens if there is no power supply? If there is no power supply, what happens, as and when the power supply will be flowing in the normal, when current is there, your battery of your online UPS will keep charging. Every time it will be charging. So once the power supply is off, okay, automatically this rectifier or the charger will be stopped receiving the electricity, because there will be no pass of power supply. So whatever the charge is there in the battery, from that battery we will start accessing the power supply from the inverter of online UPS, and then we will be able to experience the power supply. That's how it will help you to work for at least for few hours by the online UPS. I hope you are able to understand. This dotted line indicates the stored energy power flow. Okay. So what is the difference between online and offline UPSs? Online UPS, irrespective whether current is there or no, it has to pass through the online UPS. That means it has to pass through the battery. From its inverter only we are able to receive the power supply. But in case of offline, it is not like that. Directly it will be, power supply will be flowing to the computer system. But this offline UPS, it keeps on monitoring whether power supply is there or no. If the power supply is not there, automatically the control will switch to the battery of offline UPS. Then from the battery you will be start experiencing the power supply. Here, if when the current is there, also it will has to pass through the inverter of the online UPS. Then when it encounters there is no power supply, then obviously this part will not be working. Then it will start accessing the power supply from the stored battery. Then you will be experiencing the power supply to your computer system. So this was all about the power supply. Moving on to the last concept, that is assembling the computer system. So computer configuration is the process of setting up your hardware devices and assigning the resources to them so that they work together without any problems. So assembling the computer system, whenever you go for buying your computer system, usually you will be seeing what processor you need to buy, isn't it? Then what should be the RAM capacity, what should be the ROM capacity, Okay, how about the UPS, whether you have to go for online UPS or the offline UPS. Okay, then what is the internal hard disk drive capacity, all that you will be seeing. So herein you need to, whenever you are buying for the, let us see, whenever you are buying for the computer system, what are the components that you need to see. Okay, that is, we have the almost 13 components, and let us see the specification. So processor might be the dual core or Intel i3 or Intel i5 or Intel i7. Intel i7 will be having with the high-end microprocessor it is, where even L3 cache memory is also available. And then what should be, what are the brand names of, you know, microprocessor? Might be the Intel or AMD processor or the Motorola. Okay, so processor will be of dual core i3, i5, i7 or Intel Pentium 1, Intel Pentium 2, 3, 4, Intel Pentium Pro. Okay, there are different kinds of processors available, but the latest is a i7. Okay, then we have the motherboard. Already we have discussed AT. Okay, baby AT. Okay, ATX motherboard. So the which is the later XT, which is the latest motherboard, that is ATX is the latest motherboard. Okay, then we have the primary RAM. So usually I said, while I was discussing about the RAM slot, we have the DDR-M1, DDR-M2, DDR-M3 depending upon the capacity. Okay, so DDR-M actually stands for double data rate random access memory, which has been associated with the clock signal of the computer system. It passes the data at the rising edge as well as the falling edge of the clock signals. It will transfer the data to the CPU for the processing purpose. Usually these DDR-M come in terms of 1 GB, 2 GB, 3, 4 GB, 8 GB and 16 GB capacity of, you know, random access memory slots we are getting. Then we have the secondary storage devices like your hard disk drive. Okay, that is a hard disk drive. IDE actually stands for Integrated Digital Electronic Port. Usually they will be helpful to have the CD-ROM drives. And then we have the SATA connectors, that is the serial advanced technology attachment. Usually they are helpful to connect for the hard disk drive or the DVD drives to your computer system. Then we have SCSI, that is the small component system interface port, which is a high speed, you know, hard disk. It will help you to connect to high speed hard disk or the high end scanners and the CD-ROM drams. Usually comparatively to all other ports, this SCSI ports provide the faster access and data speed that are being needed the separate dedicated adapters. Okay, they actually, if at all, if a high end scanner is there that has to be connected to your computer system, means we need a SCSI port for it. Okay, usually they may come up to 500 GB to 1 terabyte hard disk drive we may get. Okay, then next we are having cabinet with the SMPS. Okay, cabinet with the SMPS means up to, I said SMPS usually come up to 450 watts, okay, 500 watts or the 550 watts. Yes or no? So SMPS actually stands for switch mode power supply. Just now we have discussed it. Then or keyboard. Keyboard is nothing but PS2. Okay, or the USB or the wireless keyboard we may have. USB, universal serial bus, isn't it? Then wireless keyboards and all we have studied in the first year, input output. Okay, we have compact keyboard, wireless keyboard, virtual keyboards. Yes, then we have the mouse. Again, it is being connected to the PS2 port or the through the USB. We are connecting the mouse to your computer system, or it might be the wireless mouse also. Nowadays we don't usually desktop computers actually makes use of PS2. Otherwise laptops and all we are frequently using with the USB connector. USB cable is means what? It will be like same like your mobile charger. Okay, that is again the USB cable. Then monitor is the, that is we are having CRT, that is cathode ray tube. This we have studied in first PUC. Then LED, that is light emitting diode, or we have the TFT monitors like this, thin film transistor liquid crystal display. Usually your monitor may come under the 14 inches or 18 inches. Then we have the printers as optional. You can go for the printer or you may not. So if at all, if you are going for printer, we have dot matrix, laser printers, inkjet printers, okay, thermal printers. We have different kinds of printers, isn't it? Then camera is again an optional, and if at all, if you are buying for that, then make sure that it is of a high resolution. Then we have the mic. So if at all, if you need for the recording purpose or something like that, then you can go for the mic, which is an analog in the sense what mic is used for the voice signals. Obviously our voice signals are all in terms of the analog signals. Okay, usually mic will be in the form of analog signals. It will be able to capture your voice. Then UPS, uninterruptible power supply. Again, it's an optional if you want for online or the offline, but online UPS are more costlier than the offline, because online UPS, it is using the internal inverter. It will be having more capacity for the standby comparatively to the offline. Hardly few minutes or the few hours depending upon the capacity of your offline, but online provides you more duration. In our computer lab also we have the online UPS. That is why even when the power goes off, our computer system keeps on working. Then we have the speakers as 2.1 or 5.1. that means what? 2 speakers with one woofers. Okay, 2 speakers with 1 woofers. So 5.1 means again there also 5 speakers with 1 woofer. So they are the versions, that's it. So if speakers are also for the optional. So these all are the different components of the computer system. Okay, so in one of the annual examination, the assembling computers were being asked. So therein you need to mention about the component plus the specification. Okay, so this is also again an important question. Just have a glance on this. Okay, so this completes the chapter typical configuration of computer system. I hope all the concepts are clear to you. Watch the videos and solve the assignment accordingly. Thank you, students. Take care of yourself.